Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. All right, we're gonna wait on everybody to jump on in. Jump on in. Letting go of the past. Letting go of the past. Talking about past issues, trauma, hurt, grief, anything that you guys want to talk about. Cheating, any and all. Any and all, we will address it. Letting go of the past, that's the topic. That's the topic. So letting go of the past is super important no matter what we talk about, and I think that a lot of the reasons is because we continue the cycle. We allow ourselves to ruminate in whatever thought it is that is causing whatever conflict internally that we're having, so it continues to process and ruminate on in life, and it really just creates a level of uncertainty within ourselves. It creates some conflict if we're talking about relationships, defensiveness, a lot of ridicule. It also can involve grieving as well throughout the process of the relationship. So yeah, I just wanted to get into it for a little bit in terms of the Throwback Thursday theme that we continue with throughout these weeks. I don't get on every day, as I mentioned, but it is something that occasionally we will talk. And whenever I get on for said theme, we will have certain topics surrounding whatever it is that we're talking about and for that particular day. And today is Throwback Thursday, where we talk about particular past issues. We talk about different traumas, just really anything that's dealing with the past. So it doesn't have to be anything that is perceived as negative. It could be anything that is a past issue, circumstance. Maybe it's something that you're still trying to get over, right? Past relationship, for instance. It could be something that you're trying to move on from. And I just really think that, in terms of letting go, of the past, it's really, really important for growth and development in life in general. So when we're moving forward, when we're trying to progress, we're trying to move on, right? It's important to let go. You don't want to carry the baggage of an old situation, old thoughts, old habits, right? Old behaviors into a new situation, into a new chapter in your life. In order to evolve, you must grow, right? You must let go of the things that have held you back. And a lot of times that includes like I said, removing certain things, people, circumstances, ability for certain situations to happen. Maybe it's a bad choice that you made, and maybe you're beating yourself up over that bad choice. It's super, super important to be able to let go, forgive yourself, and move on, right? Past the ridicule, past the frustration, past the disappointment of whatever mistake it was that you made. So I truly think that it's vital to let go for several reasons, and a few of which I just named. In terms of relationships, specifically, letting go, it disallows you to move forward in a relationship. If you're going to hold on to something, I tell couples oftentimes that I'm working with, if you're not ready to move past whatever it is that has caused the turbulence, the discord in the relationship, then ultimately it's not going to work based on that fact alone. So based on the mere fact that you cannot allow things to progress forward, right? To let go of those things, circumstances, situations, transgressions, whatever it may be of the past, then ultimately you're doing a disservice to yourself and the relationship. And there's no point in trying to move forward if you haven't let go of the past. Now, if there's a willingness to let go of the past, right? There's a willingness to let go of the past, then there's a willingness to get better. So in order to do so, you must first have a willingness. And then we get into insight. We get into insight. What was it that caused this thing, right? What was it that created this turbulence, like I mentioned? What was it that created this discord? And if it's something that maybe you had a part in, maybe you couldn't see that initially, right? So in order to let go of something, you have to have a level of insight and understanding as to what that truly was that happened or created the discord, and then move forward from that. But you can't do that without recognizing what it is. So I think that's one of the first steps in terms of letting go, is to realize what it is exactly that you're dealing with, how it is that you're feeling. And which that's another big point, is not only when we recognize what it is, then we got to realize how it makes us feel. Oftentimes I hear anger, and it usually doesn't matter what is surrounding. Even sometimes in grief, there's anger and resentment, like grief and loss, for instance. So when we're talking about grief and loss, right, there's oftentimes resentment for the person leaving, right, as is perceived by the person that's still living. Like there's a level of they left me. There's a level of abandonment. Sometimes there are issues unresolved for the person, right, that they haven't yet dealt with. So then there's a lot of you know, unresolved issues, misunderstanding, perception surrounding whatever circumstance it is that cause that person to maybe leave or depart. And if it wasn't something that was causing them to leave or depart, then usually it's something that possibly, right, could be like, say for instance, suicide. We're talking about mental health. This is part of this channel, mental health. When we talk about suicide, I've dealt with a lot of people who have a lot of resentment, anger towards their loved one for committing suicide, right? So there's a letting go, right, of those feelings and the act that happened that surrounds that, right? It's not that you're forgetting the person, and even in other situations of grief and loss where there's a natural passing, it's not letting go of the person, but it's letting go of those emotions, right, that are entrapping you in that moment, right, so that you can't properly grieve that person. So you have to be able to recognize what those things are, have the insight in order to be able to move forward to alter those responses, right, such as anger. One of the big things about that, I like to always say, is it's a secondary emotion, because truthfully speaking, there's something usually, and oftentimes, I don't speak in absolutes, but there is something oftentimes underneath the anger, right? There's something that is I don't want to say creating it, but there's something that is embellishing upon, right, the anger. It's something that is allowing that to be at the forefront of the mind. It's pushing it. It's a driving force for the anger. So typically that is sadness. Typically that is some sort of sadness, disappointment. So we talk about cheating, right? Let's take that one for example. That's one of those big issues, right? Especially when we're talking about relationships. All right, so one person cheats on the other person, right? Usually and typically you will see anger, right, as an expression. Well, the issue there is that doesn't do anything to resolve the issue, right? That doesn't allow you to let go of the past, right? That doesn't allow you to heal from whatever transgression that your partner did, right? The thing about that is that, all right, now I've got anger. What is it that I'm really feeling? Probably hurt, right? Probably disappointed, probably lacking a lot of trust, right? So distrustful, right, of that person. So there's a lot of other feelings, right, that are a part of the anger that you are feeling, and that's because you have a loved one for whom you feel hurt you, right, because of the act of cheating. So then getting to that emotion, right, having insight, right, to what that emotion is, right, what's making me feel that way, and then having the ability to effectively communicate that to your partner, right? So what I'm feeling is hurt. And granted, these are, again, generalized examples. This is taken with the premise that the person is willing to work through these things and maturely ready to receive the communication that you are trying to convey in those feelings, right? If you've got somebody who's unwilling to look at, themselves to look at the relationship, to be willing to work on the relationship through and despite that particular transgression, then I would say that that's maybe something, more aligned with like work through a Wednesday topic, sort of thing. Like, should I be here? Should I remain? Should I leave? And if so, how should I do that? What's preparing me to leave? So kind of working through those issues. So if you got a situation like that, then that might be a work through a Wednesday topic. I love to hear about it and love to speak on a topic as such. So yeah, let's just kind of, like I said, continue with that example. So if that person is hurt, is sad by whatever act their partner did, and they cannot get to that feeling, right, and they're only expressing anger, then all that's going to do is compound on the original issue of cheating. So then there's going to be a creation of other issues outside of the cheating, because then that's going to come out, and like I mentioned, defensiveness, that's going to come out in ridicule, that's going to come out in hateful, hurtful speech, right, for the person that you love. And if that person is someone who is willing, right, to move past those transgressions, to really learn from their mistakes, and then you guys could actually build a positive relationship despite and through that experience, then ultimately you're hurting yourself and that person. So then you're inflicting, right, and continuing the cycle. Now, the issue then is that person now has not only experienced a traumatic experience from you spewing that type of negativity and hatred and hurtful speech and commentary towards them, right, directed towards their person, their character, their integrity, right? Then the other issue is that then they grow a level of resentment, right, towards you. They start to develop certain feelings and frustrations surrounding the relationship, right, that isn't productive overall. Usually and oftentimes these are couples and relationships that we like to refer to as quote unquote toxic, right? And this is how the toxicity of those relationships starts to develop, right? This is really what happens usually at the core of those types of relationships, because oftentimes there are a lot of issues unresolved. There is a lack of letting go of the past, effective communication to be able to do so, and then function healthily in that relationship, right? So to be able to function healthily in that relationship has now been removed because of not only the original, right, act of cheating, right, that original hurt, but then the compounding of that hurt through the ridicule, through the suffering, through the hateful, hurtful speech. And then sometimes and occasionally it also happens that then the pain is attempted to be inflicted on the other person through the same original act. So then what that means is that the other person then tries to counter that with doing the same thing, which is cheating in this case. So then you got two people who have now cheated on each other, right? That's no good for the relationship. All the while, these two people are still in this relationship. That is where, like I said, that whole term and what would be deemed then as toxic, right? That is toxicity, because there is no effective communication. There is hateful, hurtful communication, speech, dialogue, however you choose to term that. And then there is compounding issues on top of the original issue, as well as defensiveness, lack of effective communication, not letting go of the past, right? So we haven't let go of that original issue. We haven't even addressed it, much less, right? So that's a lot of why letting go is important. And like I said, we could put this in any category that we really want to. Grief and loss. Say, for instance, letting go of a hurt that a loved one, even a parent, right, has caused you, and they've now moved on, right? They are now past, right? So, okay, I can't let go of this thing, right? I can't let go of mom or dad hurting me or abusing me or whatever, right? And now I'm an adult. So now I'm an adult, and I'm trying to move on with my life, enter into a healthy relationship. I got someone who loves and cares about me, but I can't overcome, right, the circumstances of my childhood. I can't overcome the hurt of my parent, saying certain things to me, or maybe putting me through certain situations. So letting go of that allows you, remember, to grow, to heal from those past circumstances and situations that may have been a part of your past. Letting go of the past is so essential for these reasons. And if you do not do that, then you cannot grow, right, and progress to a point of overall health and well-being within yourself to be able to effectively navigate life and furthermore relationship, right? That's why these things are so important. And then, like we talked about, trauma, right? Trauma, we talked about this one time in a previous video. Then that continues that vicious cycle, right? Then you expose someone else to a traumatic experience based on your lack of working through your own trauma, dealing with your own trauma, and letting go of the past issues, circumstances, transgressions, whatever it may be, right? Grief, loss, any of those things. Let's say, let's use another example, relationship example, for instance. You had a partner that used to talk to you in a very derogatory manner, right? They used to maybe curse you out. They used to talk down on you. They used to put you down, right? And so you enter into a new relationship, or let's put a spin on this. You stay in that relationship. That person has now grown past those transgressions, right? The situation, circumstances of maybe youth. Let's just say they were young, dumb, didn't know how to communicate, whatever, right? Whatever you want to term it as, doesn't really matter. The point is that they've now grown, right? They've matured into a place mentally, spiritually, emotionally to be able to better, right, be better equipped to handle certain discussions and maybe how they communicate or convey their anger, frustration, etc. to you, because that's typically how those things come out in terms of anger and frustration. Like I said, unaddressed, right? Because that's a secondary emotion. So really there's an underlying feeling that obviously that person was ineffective in communicating. So then they spewed hateful and hurtful speech towards you, right? They talked to you in a manner that was derogatory. Well, now that person has changed. That person has grown. And you now are of the mindset, I'm never going to stand up for that anymore. I'm never going to allow that anymore. I'm never going to let you do me like that again. And in fact, because of all the stuff that you've done, I'm going to give you back what you gave me tenfold, right? Right? So there are circumstances like that. Maybe that's some of you. Well, the problem with that is even though that was not the way that they should have handled you in the beginning, it's still not right that you handle them that way, especially if they've grown, if they've addressed and been held accountable for their past, right? If they've worked through their past, if they've made amends with how they treated you, right? So that means they've done something to correct and counter those things, right? How is it right then to inflict that same hurt, frustration, anger, and circumstance? This is why therapy is so important. This is the very reason. This is why therapy is so important, because see, truthfully, not only did that person need therapy, obviously because there was something going on, but then the other piece and component to that is that you need therapy, right? You needed therapy for that traumatic experience, because now we can take it to if you moved on. What if you didn't stay in a relationship with that person? You moved on to a different person. You're carrying that same weight, right? Those same traumatic experiences, right? All that hurt to the next relationship, unresolved, unchecked, not being dealt with. So the problem there is, right, is that you are now continuing and contributing to the cycle of trauma. You're now a part of that, right? And furthermore, one who is inflicting trauma, right? Again, doesn't negate what that person did, but now they are in fact a victim of trauma from you, right? Unpopular opinion, but it's the truth. It's the truth. So I really just encourage people to think about things like that, right? Think about, well, what is it in me that I haven't let go of? What is in me that is unresolved? What is it in me that I need to deal with, right? That comes with insight and accountability. That comes with insight and accountability. You don't want to be a part of the cycle of trauma and not letting go, right? In whatever form or fashion, whether it's grief, cheating, abuse, whatever it is, and not letting go puts you in a place of leaving these issues, circumstances, situation, past, unresolved, therefore carrying that over further into your life. Doesn't have to be a relationship. Doesn't have to be a relationship in terms of intimacy. It could be a relationship at school. It could be a relationship with colleagues at work. It could be friendships. It could be family relationships, right? It could be relationships with your children. Be relationships with your children, believe it or not. A lot of people don't want to accept that, but it could in fact be that. So the problem is that it's unresolved, it's unchecked, it's left not being dealt with. So again, that's one of the reasons, the main reasons why therapy is so important, because if we can deal with those traumatic experiences, if we can deal with the circumstances of the past that left a mark on us, maybe in a negative way, right? If we can deal with those things, it makes us better as a person, makes us heal as a person, makes us grow and progress and evolve, right, into something better than we were before in that past situation and circumstance. So truthfully speaking, it's just something that we cannot leave unresolved. It's something that we've always got to put effort into, but that comes through insight. That comes through accountability. Remember, like I said on the previous video, if you got a circle, right? And let's say you got a circle full of yes men, right? Or yes women, however you want to look at it. But you got a circle full of people that don't really hold you accountable, that always tell you what you want to hear. They appease to any and every and all of your behavior. First off, let's even take this a step further. If you've got a group of friends and they don't check you rather frequently or occasionally, I challenge you to just ask them the question, is there some stuff about me that y'all think I need to change? Is there some stuff about me that y'all don't like? Ask them that question and encourage them to be honest, because I would go on a limb to say that they probably won't be the first time or two, answering that. But truthfully, just ask that question, pose that to your group of close so-called friends, and see what they say. See what it is that they say. And maybe some of you say, well, I already asked my friends and they always tell me, what it is that I'm doing wrong or whatever. But do they really challenge you to correct that behavior? Right? Are they really challenging you to correct that? Are they really trying to make you better? If you're in a group and you're the smartest person in that group, then you need to find a new group. If you're in a group where nobody holds you accountable, you need to find a new group. Those aren't your friends. Those aren't people who are trying to help you evolve and grow. It doesn't always have to be in terms of finances. It doesn't always have to be in terms of school or work, right? Usually and most beneficially, it needs to be in terms of emotion, right? In terms of mentality, right? Because remember, from the point in which we operate, that's our mentality, our frame of perspective, right? That dictates our thinking. Our thought process, right? Which then creates how we act, behave, and speak, which then creates our beliefs, which then furthermore creates our reality. So if you got somebody who's not challenging your mentality, right? Your friend, man, you're always negative. These are oftentimes things that we know about ourselves, right? You always defensive. You get defensive about everything. You can't really take advice. That's why I don't give you advice all the time, because you get defensive. No, nobody can tell you anything. If that's you, we know, right? You know if that's you. If that's you, then guess what? You need to change something. And you need to encourage that friend who does have, right, the courage to speak up. You need to encourage them to be more truthful, honest, and accountable. Right? Accountable. It's important. It's important that we have that in our lives. And like I said, if you got a circle where that ain't happening, you need to get a new circle. So yeah, like I said, letting go is vital, man, to not continue that vicious cycle of trauma, of hurt, of transgressions. Like I said, in terms of cheating, usually that begets more cheating because the people haven't dealt with it, right? The person hasn't truly gotten to the part of healing that they need to do in an effective way to be able to better themselves, right? Usually that happens with therapy. You start to feel a little bit better, right? So that you don't go out and do the same thing, right? Further hurt yourself, hurt the person, maybe other people around you, especially when we're talking about kids involved, right? So that it gets kind of sticky. But if you do the work, right, there's no need to get your revenge. There's no need to be vindicated in that way, right? You can move on from that person, and you can know that I did what I needed to do, right, to make this thing work, or maybe to better the situation, or to have insight to myself and my actions that maybe had a contributing factor to them leaving or stepping out, or whatever the case may be, because oftentimes that does happen. And maybe we can talk about that on Tough Topic Tuesday. That'd be a good Tough Topic Tuesday. Is it my fault? Is it my fault that the cheating happened? Is it my fault that the cheating happened? That's a good Tough Topic Tuesday. Good Tough Topic Tuesday discussion. But, sometimes we got to look at ourselves. And like I said, there's no right or wrong. There's no definite answer to a lot of these things. Nothing is definitive or absolute in many cases and circumstances. But I do feel like letting go of the past is essential to growth. It's essential to growth. Are you doing that? Do you have people in your circle that are holding you accountable to help you grow, to help you understand, to help you be accountable, to help you gain insight under those types of circumstances when maybe you don't have people around, and in the moment where maybe you're in a heated argument, where maybe you should better let something go, right, than to move forward and go through it, right? Then some things are better left unsaid. That's where that kind of saying comes from, right? Maybe I should let this one go, right? Choosing which hill you're going to die on in relationships, conversations, even at work. Like I said, this stuff is applicable in so many areas in life, but it's truly a matter of perspective. It's a matter of mentality. It's a matter of how you look at these things, because if you operating from a different frame of reference, then usually and oftentimes, right, that's how you're going to act, think, and behave in those situations, as well as speak. So let's just say, again, I use a cheating example, and then we take that into another relationship. And then guess what? I'm never going to let anybody do this to me. I'm never going to let anybody talk to me like this again, right? I'm never going to put up with this, right? So then you create this standard based in a reality that is no longer existent, and certainly not with that particular person and individual that you now moved forward with. So maybe you've been granted the opportunity to be with a person that isn't like that at all. But you're taking that mentality, right? You're taking that belief, that reality into this new situation. You're taking that trauma into this new situation. That's what that means. You're taking that trauma into the new situation, and therefore inflicting trauma on that person. That person doesn't deserve that. That person deserves you healed. Remember, you got to be 100% whole within yourself, or damn close to it, right, to enter into a relationship. That's just the facts. That's just the facts. But tell me your thoughts on it. Tell me what you think. Maybe you in this situation. Maybe you've gone through it. I want to know. I want to hear it. That's just me talking. That's just me talking. 13 years of experience. That's just me. Tell me what you think. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're in this situation. Defensiveness is I touched on that a little bit earlier, but I wanted to jump back to that really quick because that is essentially what that means. That circumstance that I was just talking about. See, that's defensiveness. I'm never gonna let this happen, right? So you got walls up, right? You got walls up, and you're guarding against something that isn't a threat. And then guess what that does? That creates a battlefield. That creates a grounds, right, for which war will ensue. That's what happens there, right? And even in those circumstances, sometimes, like I said, where the person may have grown and maybe there was some past cheating, maybe something, clicked in them and they're growing and moving past where they were that caused you such pain. And you're bringing all that old baggage. You're holding them, you're holding them hostage to the past. And that's not fair either. That's not fair either. So that person, again, remember, has made amends. They've grown. They've been held accountable for those circumstances and transgressions of the past. And they've truly made a change. It ain't right to hold them hostage in that, because ultimately you're doing yourself, you're doing them, the relationship, and if there are kids involved, you're doing everyone a huge disservice. And then you are to blame for that. You are to blame for that, right? Because you're choosing to remain in the past. See, that's where it starts to get sticky. Like I said, that's kind of moving into Tough Topic Tuesday. And we can touch back on this, but I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear if there's some specific examples relative to what I just said, right? Maybe this is you. Maybe you've held somebody hostage to their past that have truly been making efforts to change. And again, remember, I'm talking about people who truly made efforts to change, not people who are remaining in that way of living, thinking, or doing. And I want to also be clear with that and give some context. Not your perception of them not changing, right? I'm talking actually like having cold hard facts, like you've made an effort to ask this person of certain things, tangible things, and they aren't giving those things, right, in the relationship. Not a perception of them continuing the behavior, or a perception of, let me see something else that I've worked with in the past, like a perception of, well, they're still always on their phone, or they are controlling, or they're jealous, right? Because I remember talking to a couple, and it was like, well, he's jealous and controlling, and in actuality, it was caring, right? It was caring and compassionate, as opposed to jealous and controlling. So see, that's why I said a lot of that stuff gets a little sticky sometimes. And so we've got to be careful of when we're operating from a different frame of and perspective, mentality, right, of what those things are. So we throw these words around a lot of times when truthfully that's not really what it is. So then that person was going and telling their family, he's controlling, he's jealous and all these things, when in reality, that wasn't truly the case. Right? So and another problem with that, when we're talking about issues of the past, one of the worst things you can do is involve family in your situation, friends in your situation. One of the worst things you can do. I got a lady that I'm working with, and she is married, and I commend her wholeheartedly for actually not involving her family and friends, especially to the depth of which they were aware of certain particulars in regards to her marriage. And her marriage is actually still lasting to this day, and it's doing a lot better. There was, in fact, infidelity in this particular relationship as well, and the changes were made, and they were significant and consistent. So again, I've had so many examples. I've had examples where there was no infidelity, right? There was no infidelity, in fact, but there was just a lack of effort that started to somehow creep into the relationship, and then those things actually have, I've seen, deteriorated faster than infidelity, if I'm being honest. So it just really depends on the circumstance. Certain things, you got to figure out what your non-negotiables are and what things you are, or, where you draw the line. But I can and will tell you that depending on your circumstances and your situation, you might need to have some further thought into how you choose to react or respond to certain things. Not saying take everything in situations and circumstances, and the people that I work with certainly know that. But I do think that everything should be evaluated from an objective lens as opposed to a subjective, irrational frame of reference. So that's just my comment on that. But yeah, I think I touched on enough in terms of letting go of the past and different circumstances and situations. But I do want to hear from y'all, because I plan to do some of the things that I talked about in this session, I think, with some Tough Topic Tuesday. So with this particular talk and the dialogue surrounding that, I definitely think a Tough Topic Tuesday is due. It's due, and we're gonna touch on some of that. Like, is it my fault, in the relationship, and we're talking about cheating. So what does that look like? Why is that, and how can that be? Right. So let's talk about it. I want to hear, like I said, it might be unpopular opinion, but hey, we gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. So I appreciate everybody for chiming in. Appreciate the likes on the YouTube. Like I said, the link in the Instagram is for the YouTube. Make sure that you click that, go like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notifications button on the YouTube so that you can know when I'm going live, when I do the streams. And if you're not following on, those of you on YouTube, the Instagram, make sure that you go on Instagram. If you got Instagram, mentality_counseling on Instagram. And if you're not on Instagram, get on Instagram and go follow mentality_counseling on Instagram. So that way you can get a lot of the things that I don't post on YouTube on the Instagram page. So I really, really appreciate everybody for chiming in. Y'all have a good night. I had a busy, long day, so I'm about to go and take care of myself, eat something, and get ready for tomorrow. So y'all get ready for some more motivation tomorrow, for some more insightful posts on the Instagram page. So I really, really appreciate everybody, like I said, for chiming in. Thank you, as always. Love y'all. Peace out.